Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Modesty's Money Masterclass. This is season 2, episode number 20 of our Modesty's Money Masterclass. How are you all doing? Have you all recovered from the Jubilee long holiday weekend? So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we've been in joyous mood in this country, celebrating 70 years of Her Majesty the Queen's reign in the United Kingdom. And over the 4-day period, you could see, communities coming out, uniting, throwing street parties, celebrating what is worth celebrating. 70 years on the throne, that is no mean feat. Over a period of 70 years, a lot of things have happened, but the Queen has remained constant and ever present. So from all of us here at Modesty's Modesty's Financial Consultants and from Modesty's Money Masterclass, we are wishing Her Majesty the Queen a much healthier future, and may her reign remain peaceful. We're very grateful for what you've done for this country, especially the faith. You have been the defender of the faith, and we've all benefited from your benevolence and from your kindness. Long live the Queen. Okay, so as we pray for the Queen to live long, we also have to do what we have to do to make sure that our long life is also enjoyable. Oh yes, I did have a nice rest. Thanks, Ada, for asking. It was wonderful. Over the weekend, very fun filled. I had lots of fun with my family. I had lots of fun with a lot of people who mattered to me and who loved me, and we enjoyed the moments together. So today we are going to be talking about a very interesting topic that a lot of people from the African background will appreciate more, would understand and be more familiar with as well. So it is something that has been there, in fact, from the day I was born, and as far as I can remember, I've been hearing about this particular local financial system. What system are we talking about here? We're talking about the Isusu system. Some people call it the Susu system. Some call it, in some languages, like the Yoruba language, it's called Ajo. But in English, it's known as the Thrift contribution system. So a lot of people have been involved and engaged in this system for time immemorial. It has served generations upon generations of people, especially from the African origin, and a lot of people have testified to how this system has really been useful to them in terms of financial management. And then you would imagine something as old as the Susu system still being relevant in this day and age, and people still practicing it. There must be something very tangible about it. There must be something very noteworthy about it, and it's worth discussing so that we'll compare the relevance of that system from when it was introduced or when it was being practiced from time of old and this modern day, and see how that compares. So the idea behind discussing this is not to it's not really to enforce any opinion. It's just to have an objective conversation about it, to look at the pros and cons of this system. And because I have had this conversation with a couple of my clients in the last couple of weeks, and in the course of those conversations, a few things came up when we were discussing these things, and I just said, well, this might be a very interesting topic to talk about in our Money Master class, because not a lot of people actually talk about it as much as it should be talked about, because many people do avoid talking about it, maybe because of their bad experiences, or people don't just want to be discouraged from doing it, or people just want to pretend that the risks that are involved in it do not exist, so it doesn't discourage you from doing it. There are several reasons why people kind of avoid talking up. They just want to get on with it, and whatever comes out of it, they take it like that. But that's not how life should be. Everything you should do objectively, and you should be willing to subject it to an objective analysis, an objective analytical viewpoint, where you can easily where information and education around that subject matter should enable you make an informed decision. And remember that the aim and what we do here at Modesty's Money Masterclass is to financially educate so that we can financially liberate. All right? So let's look at the Isusu system. Just a brief overview of what the system is all about. It's basically, Isusu means small, like it means little by little, right? That's how that word Isusu was coined. It just implies like little contribution. So it's an idea that encourages gradual build up, right? Not something that you just indulge a huge amount of money. It just encourages gradual build up, small, little contributions, and then it grows and becomes something tangible. So the Susu system is more prevalent in Africa, but it's also practiced in some parts of Latin America. And in fact, traces of Isusu have been found in different, in some other developed economies. Now, the Susu system, which is the thrift contribution system, can be practiced in two ways. It can be practiced in a solo contribution. It can be practiced in a group contribution. So the solo contribution, basically, people just, somebody offers himself as the thrift collector, or an organization offer themselves as the thrift collector. So it becomes a conduit. It becomes a platform upon which people will now be making the contribution. So the solo system, basically, especially if you go to marketplaces or offices in Africa or other parts of the world, the thrift collector comes to the doorstep and collects your contribution, and maybe they give you a card, and then they'll be marking every the payments you're making, whether you're making the payments on a daily basis for people who earn money daily, or you might be making the payments or contributions on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis. The frequency is up to you. And then at an agreed period, maybe you have agreed with the thrift collector or with the thrift organization that you're going to be making these gradual and little contributions into the system for 1 year. And after 1 year, you come and you pick up whatever you have in that account or you have in that system. So that's just you and the thrift collector doing your thing. Then there is the other part of it that involves a group of people, where a group of people come together and they decide that we're going to be making this and this much contribution on a regular basis. That frequency is now left for the group to decide whether they're making the contribution on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, or on a monthly basis. And then they decide among themselves that, okay, thank you very much, Ada. Yeah. So a lot of people come together and they now decide among themselves how they will be taking the contributions. So if, for example, they are a group of 10 and they say, okay, we're going to be contributing £100 each every month. £100 amount to £1,000 every month. And then they say one person will be taking the lump sum or the bulk money at the end of the month when we contribute it. So every month, one person is entitled to £1,000, given that everybody in the group has contributed. And then until it goes round. So for 10 people, it means it will take 10 months for it to go around everybody before everybody gets their own share. And then at the end of the one round, they now decide whether to either stop there or to carry on. If they have found it beneficial and useful, they carry on. If they feel it's been stressful and inconveniencing, they might decide to end it there. So that's the group Isusu system, right? So that group contribution is also very prevalent in Africa and other developing economies. So with the idea that this is what the system is all about, you can see that it's a system that encourages or is used to build up a lump sum, especially capital. In the Igbo part of Nigeria where I come from, a lot of Igbo people who are traders have used the Susu system to raise capital for their businesses. A lot of apprentices have used the Susu system to raise capital for themselves, to buy materials and equipment. In fact, I was reading an article on the Susu system in Nigeria, especially among the Igbo people. And several very encouraging testimonies were coming out of the system. People who have benefited from it, people who made the contribution on a solo basis, and people who made the contribution on a group basis. So many artisans, like welders, like tailors, like mechanics, were testifying to how the Susu system helped them raise the capital they needed to start, their businesses. Some of them even started doing it while they were apprentices. And they were saying that instead of eating twice, they had to eat once. So the money they saved from eating the second meal, they put it in the Susu system. And then that helped them save up until maybe they became free in about 18 months to 24 months time, and then they used that money to buy, which was really very encouraging, because they said that without that system they wouldn't have been able to save up to buy those equipments. Very, very encouraging. So that leads us to the pros of the Susu system. So let's look at the pros. Let's look at the advantages of the Susu system. So by the way, what we are talking about today are the pros and cons of the Susu system. So we're going to look at the advantages, we're going to look at the disadvantages. First of all, the advantages. Number one advantage that the Susu system offers its members or people who are involved in it is lump sum, right? Because people get to collect this money in lump sum whenever they are due. That money comes to them in a tangible lump sum amount, which enables them to do what they want to do with it in a lump sum, in a lump sum format. It enables them to use that lump sum for something tangible that they want to use it for. And the truth of the matter is that without the Susu system, they wouldn't have access to that lump sum amount that they had. With the example I give, let's say that amount was £500 a month that people are contributing, professionals are contributing. At the end of the month, whoever it is their turn to collect will collect £5,000. But that person will tell you that they wouldn't have been able to have access to that £5,000 lump sum without that system being in place. So that's one big advantage of the Susu system. It gives the participants access to lump sum. Number two advantage is financial discipline. Okay, so the financial discipline here, it helps the members or who are participants in that Isusu system to be financially disciplined. In fact, in the article I was reading, one of the women that was participating in that Isusu system said that because she was contributing 500 naira every day into that system, it limited the amount of money available for her to spend on other things that she would have ordinarily spent if she had that money available to her. So because she has already limited herself by 500 naira every single day, other luxuries had to wait, because that money she put into that system enabled her pay her children's school fees at the beginning of every year. She would do it from January to December. By January the next year, when school fees is about to be paid, she will have money to pay the school fees. But she admitted that it affected their living standard and the amount of money they could spend on other things, but it helped them, do what's most important, which was paying the school fees in January. Now, the other advantage of that is the community spirit, especially with the group system. A group of people coming together, bound together by one purpose and by a common interest, is a powerful force. So a community spirit is built among those who are contributing that money, and friendships are formed through that as well, because they are bound by one interest, which is their overall financial welfare. That everybody wants to support themselves, everybody wants to contribute as much as they can to make each other financially better off. So that community spirit binds them together, and it helps friendships to foster. It also helps a community to be built, and they could carry on doing more things together from there beyond just contributing money together. So it kind of encourages a community spirit to be built. Number 4 advantage here is the savings culture and the support system that the Susu system brings. Now, for some people, it's difficult to build a savings culture, but the Susu system helped them build that savings culture. And because, especially those who are in a group system, because they're in a group, they couldn't have done it on their own. But because they are in a group, they are motivated by other members of the group who are also making sacrifices to make sure that the group system is sustained and that everybody gets their turn and their own round to get the money. So that participation and being member of a group and seeing others do it encourages them to do it. So it becomes a support system to help them build that savings culture that they want to build. Number 5 advantage here is project accomplishments. The article I was reading again was talking about several projects that people were able to accomplish as a result of the Susu system. Some were able to buy cars within a year or two because they were saving that money for some time. In fact, one man said that he was able to finish the house he was building for his mom in the village because of that Isusu system. That without the Susu system, which gave him access to 2 million naira twice in 2 years, that he wouldn't have been able to finish. In fact, he might not even have started the housing project in the first place. But because he had that lump sum, he wanted to do something meaningful with it, he started the project and the Susu system helped him finish that project. So a lot of people have accomplished, some have used it to pay their school fees. Like I said before, some have used it to buy the equipment they needed to start their business. So several projects have been accomplished, all thanks to the Susu system. Number 6 advantage here is the institutional risks and charges that is associated with the modern banking. Some people are not very sophisticated financially, so they don't really know how to deal with the modern day banks and the modern day banking. And the modern day banking has certain things that some people are not very comfortable with. Maybe with the bank charges, the risks involved in putting their money in the bank. The bank could go underground and their money could disappear. And apart from that, their accounts could get closed. Some banks are crazy. They close your account for no reason. And then before you finish all the protocols involved in recovering your money from the bank, it becomes a headache. Some people have been put off by these unnecessary red tapes and unnecessary harsh banking policies that some banks put in place. In the UK here, your account could get closed for something as little as unidentified transaction in your account. And before you go through the process of reopening the account, or even if it will be reopened, some people have had their accounts closed for reasons that they don't even understand. So there are certain things that put people off banking, which now draws them or makes the Susu system attractive to them. The Susu system becomes their local banking. That thrift collector who comes to take money from their shop or their office every month becomes their personal banker, and they rather deal with that human being who comes to take money from them than that. Okay, Ada is of the opinion that the advantages are far better than the disadvantages. That we are still talking about the advantages. We have not even come to the disadvantages. So let's come to the disadvantages first, and then we can make a balanced bet. I am throwing up, like I said, this is going to be a very balanced, objective discussion about this topic. Okay? So, and then this number 7 advantage here as well are the formalities and processes. The formalities and processes that are involved in opening an account in the bank, and the process of withdrawal of money from the bank, and sometimes having to go and queue up in the bank, especially in local economies like Nigeria and all that, where people go through stress to make money, and they go through stress to even withdraw the money that they have made. So it becomes very stressful for people who are involved. So those formalities and processes put people off, and it makes the Susu system attractive for them. So those are the advantages that I've been able to, come up with respect to the Isusu system. I mean, if there is any advantage you feel I have left out here, it's an open conversation. You can put it down in the comments, or you can message me privately, or we can talk about it, via message. I want on the platform, on our Modesty's Money Masterclass platform, feel free to come there and make contributions as to what you think are the advantages of the Susu system. If you think I've left anything out. Okay, now let's look at the cons. What are the disadvantages of the Susu system? Number 1 that I put down here is an issue with safety. You see, even as I was reading that article as well, there were instances and people who mentioned that the funds they contributed, their sweat that they contributed through a thrift collector disappeared, because the thrift collector disappeared with their money. In fact, one woman was talking about how she is a civil servant who was contributing 5,000 naira every month into the Susu system through the thrift collector, with the hope that by Christmas she would have saved up 60,000 naira to take care of the Christmas expenses. And she said by Christmas, the moment they wanted to collect the money, they did not see the person who was coming to collect. The phone number got switched off, the person disappeared. And she wasn't the only person in the office who was doing that. Everybody in that office who was doing that lost their money, that Christmas. She said that was the worst Christmas that they've ever had, and she vowed never to have anything to do with this. So it's a problem. The safety of funds is a problem, because the funds you are giving it to an individual whose background you have not researched. Even among the groups, if somebody in the group is responsible for collecting the money and then giving to whoever it is their turn to collect, you are not even guaranteed of the safety of the funds in the hand of the person, because at the month the person might be collecting the money, the person might have personal issues that they would need money to do. So by the time you give them the money, they can decide to solve their own problem first with the money and then start telling you stories. So there's all manner of issues with safety. Stories abound of people who have taken this thrift collection from people and they have disappeared abroad. They've traveled about people's money and have wrecked people's lives and people's livelihoods. So safety is a very big issue with the Susu system. Secondly, number 2 disadvantage is the risk, the continuity risk. Okay, so if you're in a group and you're doing that, what is the guarantee that if you're a group of 20, I was discussing one of my clients the other day, and he said that they're about to start one Isusu group. I said, how many of you? Said 20 of us. Okay, so if there are 20 people in that group who are going to be doing 500 pounds every month, every month one person will go with 10,000 pounds. Fantastic, very, very brilliant, idea. And for somebody who will go home with 10,000 pounds in a month, that's really wonderful. But then what's the guarantee that the whole of that 20 people will stick to that contribution for 20 months? Because it will take 20 months before the money will go around everybody. So there's the risk of continuity. And if one person breaks the chain, the whole thing collapses. If one person breaks the chain, the purpose is defeated. Others who have contributed, are going to be losing out. And if one person collects their own money and says, I'm no longer interested because I can't afford to continue this, I don't have the income that I used to have to continue this, the whole thing breaks down. So what about the rest? Out of the 20 people, if on the 7th month, the 7th person collects and says, I'm no longer interested, what happens to the remaining 13 who have not collected? So that continuity risk is a real danger to that system. Number 3, disadvantage is the recycling of the lump sum. Okay, so if you are in a group of the Isusu contributors, right? For example, the 20 again, and there are 20 of you, and you collect that 10,000 pounds or 500 every month. That 10,000 pounds, for you to be true to the spirit of the group, you need to carry on contributing. So what it means is that out of that 10,000 pounds you have collected, you will still recycle that contribution 20 times over again, because it has to go around. So you end up contributing that 10,000 pounds again into the system and into the group. So the advantage of the lump sum is not real, per se, because the lump sum you collected, you have put back into the system. Theoretically, you might say, no, that I'm contributing from my income, so that lump sum is set aside. But then in the long run, if you do another 20 contributions of 500 pounds, that's the 10,000 pounds you collected reintroduced into the system. Okay, I've got a comment here from Ola. It says it comes with benefits and it comes with disadvantages. So you would have been blessed with it and I have been coordinating. Okay, Ola is recounting her blessings with it. Yes, and that's why we're having this conversation, because we've already discussed the advantages and we are now discussing the disadvantages, and we mentioned, those advantages, Ola. So the number 4 disadvantage we want to mention here is inflation risk, right? Money is affected by inflation. Paper money is affected by inflation. And we all know that in the UK here today, the inflation rate in the UK has hit 9%. So what it means is that what you bought last year, right, has increased by 9% in price and in cost. Okay, so if you have been saving money from 1 year ago, that money is 9%, you are 9% poorer in terms of the real value of that money. So if it's not your turn to collect, if you're in a group of 20, by the time it comes to the 20th month, can you imagine what the inflation rate is? So the lump sum you are collecting, the real value of that money is actually less than what you're collecting. If you're the 20th person in a group of 20, collecting £10,000 in the 20th month and you're the last person, and if inflation has hit 9-10%, then you collect £10,000. 10% inflation, 10% of £10,000 is £1,000. So you're £1,000 poorer. The actual value of money you've collected is £9,000. It's not £10,000. Okay, so inflation is a real danger that you need to consider, a real factor you need to consider in the Susu system. And it is real, because you cannot deal with money without talking about inflation that affects money. Number 5 is lack of returns, right? See, the opportunity cost of the regular contribution you are making into the Susu system is how much that money could have yielded you in returns if you were investing them. I have an investment account where I put money aside every month. I pay money into my investment account every month. So if I chose to do this in an Isusu system, right, and I'm among a group of 20 people, okay, and I'm putting £500 into that Isusu pot every month, the opportunity cost, your alternative to that will be to put that money in an investment pot. Okay? Now, okay, all I'm saying, thanks for highlighting this. Never thought about it this way. Inflation impact was never given a thought in Thrift contribution. That's exactly why we are doing what we are doing. It's about, the education to help you make an informed decision. Now, the opportunity cost of doing what I am doing is to put that money in an investment account. So the Susu pot doesn't give me returns. But if I was putting £500 into an investment account for 20 months, I know that there is no guarantee on returns on investments, but at least it gives me the chance of having a return. And I'd rather take a chance of having a return than a chance of having none. Unless I want to save for a particular purpose. But if it's a long-term thing, because it doesn't give, even if it's giving you a return of 0.05% in your savings account, it's still something better than nothing. So if I want to put it in my savings account and I get a return of 0.05%, apart from the safety I'm getting from the banks, I'm also getting, no matter how little it is, than getting nothing, because that at least compensates me for the effort, of saving. So that little return is the opportunity cost that you are letting go by getting involved in the Susu system. So it's now for you to wait to know whether that opportunity cost is worth the price or not. Okay, so what we are going to do is, we are going to stop the conversation here, and we're going to continue that conversation next week, because there's still a lot more about the Susu system that we have not discussed, especially when it comes to the disadvantage part or to the factors that we need to consider. And the reason I felt it was important to discuss this was because I've had this conversation with a few of my customers and a few of my clients, and we've been able to have a very balanced and objective conversation around it, and a few things have come up and a few understanding have been struck in that. So thank you very much for joining us today. And next week, we're going to continue this conversation from where we stopped. And trust me, there is still a lot more to come as far as this conversation is concerned. God bless you. Have a wonderful day and see you again next week. I remain your man, Ikenna Umeizidike. Bye now. Take care.